And joining us now from Chicago, we have Vikas Pershad, Chief Executive Officer of Veda Investments, where he manages $200 million in assets. So welcome to the program. So what do you think of earnings season so far? We got some great numbers out of Intel yesterday, and Alcoa also beat the street.
I've been a little surprised. I think coming into earnings season, I was expecting a mixed to slightly negative bias in the earnings. Because, as you mentioned in the introduction, the fundamentals here are quite poor. You know, I live in Illinois, which is the state with the worst fiscal situation among all 50 in the U.S. If you look at the U.S. from the federal, state, and city levels, and you combine that with the unemployment situation and the underemployment situation, it's quite tough. So, as you mentioned, I do think that the recent rally has been largely driven by an extreme sell-off. But over the short to intermediate term, I think the fundamentals remain poor out here.
Okay, so what does that mean? Does that mean you're putting in more shorts these days, thinking that stocks will fall from here?
I am. Over the past few days, have been reinitiating shorts in the U.S., shorts in Europe as well, and my long bias has been in the Asia-Pacific region of late.
Okay, so what are you shorting in the U.S. and Europe then?
In both regions, consumer discretionary over the past couple weeks, I've both in the European markets and in the U.S. companies that serve the high-end consumer or just consumer discretionary items, whether it's autos, something like a BMW into the rally yesterday, Ford, Tiffany. Some of the restaurant names. I just think if you are on the ground here and you visit the malls, it's a completely different picture than what you see out in Asia, and you sense the difference immediately.
Yeah, there is a lot of optimism across Asia right now. Let me just ask you about the Ag Bank. You know, we had the Agricultural Bank of China listing today, debuting in Shanghai. Did you buy into this IPO? If not, you know, what makes you think twice about buying into Chinese banks then?
Rightly or wrongly, I've been a bit of a skeptic on the Chinese banks since I first started looking at them, and we had the first series of IPOs in Hong Kong in late 2005. I think if you look at the accounting, the numbers are a little opaque. I prefer to see how it begins to start trading in the next few days before taking a view. I think there are better banks around the world to invest in than the Chinese banks.
Yeah, speaking of opaqueness, you actually like the Indian banks, which a lot of people would probably take a second look at as well before investing, because this is an economy that's suffering 10% inflation right now. It looks like interest rates are going to go up, and that's going to crush these profit margins possibly. Well, not crush, but at least, you know, narrow the margins for these Indian banks. But why do you prefer India over China right now?
You mean the financial sector or just in general?
In general itself, and also the financial sector.
So I'll start broadly. I think there are several reasons why I think India is more appealing to a foreign investor than is China. I think structurally, if you just look at it starting broadly, the breadth and depth of the Indian market is quite impressive. You have roughly 4,000 listed companies in India, a little less than half that in China. If you look at the liquidity and the volume, that's all superior in India. If you look at the ability to short, the accessibility for foreigners, the ability to use derivatives, especially single-name stocks, single-name futures and options, India has a clear lead. So just structurally, I think India is more appealing. Second, if you look at the growth, it's broader and deeper in India across many sectors. The infrastructure and the residential real estate, consumer real estate sectors in China have been struggling this year. But they're, especially on the consumer side in India, they've been doing quite well. Then you go to just the performance, and I think I tend not to look at year-to-date performance numbers. I think those are largely irrelevant. I like to look at performance from certain inflection points. So if you look at how India has done versus China since late last year, it has clearly outperformed. If you just look at India versus China since late April, when we hit our highs for the year around the world, India is slightly positive. China is down about 20%. So I think that's a long enough data set to demonstrate some sort of resilience for the Indian economy.
Okay, Vikas, nice talking to you today. Vikas Pershad, Chief Investment and Executive Officer of Veda Investments.